Hello, everyone. This is Lettie Wilkes. I'm back here today with our podcast on planning your wedding and your event. And today we are very lucky to have Christine Leatherman with us from Flourish, Cakery and Events. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, happy to have you as well. So great. I've had the opportunity to work with you a little bit and have such great experiences. And I know you're a very busy lady in our tri-state area, and I know that you do a lot of different things. So while you're here, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you stem from, where you're from, your family, and how you got started in this industry.
Absolutely. So, how I got started actually has a lot to do with my family, but we'll touch there. So, I'm from Clear Spring, Maryland. So, I'm from the Washington County, the tri-state. This is my home. I have a very interesting background that does not include baking.
Well,
I,
okay.
yeah, so I previously was in bank management for 7 years before I decided to then go pursue my master's in school counseling. So nothing at all to do with the kitchen.
Wide variety, but experience with people.
Yes, yes. So the plan was to be a school counselor, and then I had my son, and I was on maternity leave, and I'm like, I just can't go back. So I need to be with this little baby. So as a wedding gift, we got a professional KitchenAid mixer, and I had never used it. It had sat on our counter as like a centerpiece. And I was preparing for his first birthday. And I was thinking I would really like to make his birthday cake because I wanted it to be, new mom, sugar-free, no sugar, no
All
additives,
those
all
things
of the
and new
things.
mom time.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm like, I'm gonna whip out this mixer and make his cake. So like 6 months before his first birthday, I started practicing with cakes. And I'm like, this is not that hard. And my sister would do it, my friends would do it. They're like, no, this is not easy. Like, I don't know how you're whipping these cakes together like that. And it just evolved from there. And I posted on my Facebook, my personal page, and just started offering that I was going to make cakes for family and friends. And it just kind of exploded from there.
Wow. Okay. And how old is your son today?
He is almost 5. He's four and a
Wow.
half.
So this has
Yes.
been like 5 years at this
Yes.
point. Okay, so explain to us, you do a little bit more than cakes and
Yes.
desserts, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us exactly all that you do in this little business that's evolved.
Yeah. So we do obviously the desserts, cakes, cupcakes, cookies, brownies, those types of things. We do everything is custom. I do a couple of pop-ups a year at your spring markets, your Christmas markets. There's a couple other events that we do throughout the year, but everything is custom. So we don't have things just weekly ready to sell. You have to place an order. Those prices are talked through. Everything is custom. But outside of the dessert space, we do offer, balloon setups, decor packages. We just launched our wedding nanny service. So
How does that
that's,
evolve?
yeah, so that is more for if you have children that are in the wedding party. So not necessarily for guests' children, but flower girl, or if the bride and groom have kids and you want them to be a part of your special day, but you also need care for them while you're getting ready during ceremony, someone to keep them occupied, make sure they're fed, make sure they're changed if they're still in diapers, and so that you can focus on having your special day and they're having a good time as well.
Well, that's a wonderful service to offer because I will tell you, being a coordinator and working with, bride and groom, some have their own kids and then they have nieces and nephews and
Right.
family friends. And it's one of the things in getting ready, you don't want them there the whole day because it's a
Hmm.
lot on a child to prepare. And if you
Exactly.
want them fresh and excited,
Yep.
they need to get there probably at the latest point. They're not in a lot of pictures just because
Right.
it is a lot. So what a unique service to offer.
Hmm.
I think that is great. And I think a lot of people should look into resourcing that since you offer that.
Absolutely.
So you don't have a storefront. You do this business completely out of your home.
Yes.
Okay. And do people end up coming to your house to meet with you, or do you meet them at a location
Hmm.
when you're talking about what they might want, or is it strictly like email, text, or on the phone?
So a lot of what I do is through my website. You can do an inquiry through my website, and then once you send that website inquiry, it switches over to email.
Okay.
I would say about 10 requests come from my website. Almost everything comes through social media. So Instagram, Facebook. I do end up giving all of my brides my personal number. That's the easiest way to reach me so that it's more of that quick contact when they need something. But mostly everything is through social media. For pickups, I live in rural Clear Spring, so my address does not come up on GPS. So I do local pickups in Clear Spring. Um, in more of a central location, so it's just easier for my clients to find me. And then we can have that designated time where it's not confusing of when do I come get my cake, that type of thing. And I do offer delivery as well. So I offer delivery specifically for weddings. But if someone has a need for other events as well, I will offer delivery for those too.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I know just recently, you did an event for somebody had a birthday party at my
Yes.
venue, and wow, it was just absolutely gorgeous. You hit it on the spot to their theme, and it just was beautiful. And I know I followed your social media, and it's a great way to see her work,
Hmm.
because she does a great job with her social media. So check that out if you've not had an opportunity to do that. What would you say you think you mostly bake for? Would it be weddings, events, pop-ups? What do you think is your biggest, and it could be varied on times
Yeah.
a year, but what do you feel like your biggest things? Or maybe you've never even tallied it, calculated it, or
No, I have not ever tallied it. So, but I can think during peak season. So, obviously, holidays is always pop-ups. Those are the busiest. Wedding season peaks, so spring and fall is
right,
definitely
right.
more of a focus on weddings, bridal showers. And then the rest of the year, I would say a lot of birthdays, a lot of baby showers, bridal showers, kind of filling in the gaps there between the peak weddings and the holiday season.
Okay, so it's a good mixture,
It
I'd say.
is.
Awesome, depending on the type of year.
Exactly.
What would you say is your busiest time of year? Do you have
Hmm.
a downtime or is it just always busy?
I used to have a downtime. So until this year I really feel like I've exploded quite a bit. Usually my lead time for orders is about 1 to 2 months. This year it's 2 to 3, pushing even 4 during the busy months. So my busiest times this year have been spring has been fully booked since December.
Good for you.
Fall is almost fully booked. So it's definitely those wedding seasons because I don't take as many of other event orders during wedding season. So it's those peak wedding seasons are the
And then
busiest.
how many events or how many things do you say you can handle,
Hmm.
and you book a week
Yeah.
within a week's time?
So being a one-woman show, I
Yeah.
cannot take as many. So I would say on average between 10 and 12 orders a week, and that varies on the size of the
And
orders.
what you also have going on in your personal life.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Well, kudos to you for being booked and for being busy. And that's one thing I will say in the industry of events and weddings, to those of you who are watching this podcast. The more somebody has exposure, the quality they provide, the good quality, the top-notch people, you're going to have to book them early on because they are going to be booked. It's not a last minute thing. If it's a last minute thing, it's just pretty much you got lucky.
Right.
So, and I will vouch, I think Christine just does a wonderful job. And it's no question that you're busy all the time.
Thank you.
Um, so with your weddings and planning and even an event,
Hmm.
a lot of people want to know the type of product they're getting,
Hmm.
and that requires tastings.
Yeah.
So how does that process work for you? I call you and I'm planning a wedding and I want to have a tasting. What does that involve? How many do you provide? Where do you
Hmm.
provide? All that good stuff. Share with us.
Yes. Tastings are very fun because you do get to try quite a few flavors. So for wedding tastings specifically, I have two options. I like to be able to offer something in everyone's budget. So I have a 2 flavor offering that is a lesser cost, and I have a 4 flavor offering that's a little bit more. Both of those costs for your tasting get then deducted from your total wedding order if
Nice.
you end up booking,
Nice.
which we do have like a 99% conversion for booking rating after a tasting. Um, so you'll get 2 flavors with our option one, which is 2 cake flavors that you get to choose from our full menu. There's not a smaller menu for weddings. You get to pick from our full flavor menu. 2 cake flavors, 2 frosting flavors, 2 filling flavors. And then the same for our option two, which is 4. So 4 cakes, 4 fillings, 4 frostings. Those are all for pickup. I like it to be very like low pressure. And obviously it's in my home, so I just want people to be comfortable.
Right.
So people will pick up their tastings at our central location where we do our pickups, and then they can take it home and enjoy if they want to have family and friends over to taste with them, if they just want to taste it by themselves, a no pressure environment where someone's not just standing there waiting to see their reaction of the flavors.
Right.
So,
Well, and that kind of puts you, they probably feel awkward around you.
right.
And how many, wow, that's pretty unique, but how many cake flavors do you have? Filling flavors, frosting? I mean, that's a lot. That could be a big list. I don't know. So what does that involve? How many choices do
Yes.
we get?
So that's a good question. I don't know exactly how many is on my flavor menu. I would say I probably have about between 15 and 20 flavors for cakes that we offer, maybe 10 fillings, 10 frosting flavors. But I know that in the wedding industry, specifically desserts, it's larger orders, it's bulk orders. You're making a lot of things. And some of the larger bakeries that do weddings or catering companies, they have to keep it streamlined. So they
And
might be
offers
doing,
much?
right, they might be doing several weddings a day,
Right.
and they might need to keep it to 5 or 6 flavors that you can choose from. Whereas I might only be doing 2 or 3 weddings in an entire weekend. So I can customize those flavors more, which I found that my couples really enjoy if they do a few tastings, that they're not getting that variety at other bakeries to be able to choose from such a large list.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the most frequent flavor that you would say? Or your high flyers, I
Yeah, it's
guess.
between vanilla maple,
Ooh,
vanilla almond, and lemon blueberry.
this is making me hungry just thinking about it. Tasty. So what would you say your price point, your ranges are? If we
Hmm.
were, you talked about those tastings, what would
Yeah,
you say your lowest to your highest? Because people
absolutely.
like to know like kind of a price range.
Yeah. So I do have a lot of couples that will just do a cutting cake. And then they may, if they're within a certain budget that they're trying to reach, they still want to have that aesthetic of their special wedding cake. So they'll do a cutting cake, which starts at $80. And then they might go to Sam's Club to get the rest of their cupcakes if that's what's in their budget. Um, but I would say my average order, if you're doing like a cutting cake, cupcakes, it's probably around 3 to 400 for like a standard size wedding. Once you get over 125 guests, it does increase. But for a typical order, you can get a cake and cupcakes for around 3 to 400.
And it's something you brought up that people are doing. What do you I think I'm seeing a trend
Mm-hmm.
that, large cakes, 3 tiers, that it still happens.
Sure.
That used to be, the tradition back years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a trend that I'm working with my couples, and it might be the same for you, might be different. They like to have a little cake for them to cut, and then they like to have
Right.
different types of desserts, or maybe not even mini desserts. So what are you seeing actually in the industry? I'm just seeing that from the venue perspective, but I know you
Absolutely.
actually do it. So tell us about that.
So last year was very big on cutting cakes and cupcakes. I would say this year we're transitioning a little bit more to a cutting cake with a dessert table. People want the variety of the cupcakes, the cookies, the brownies, those types of things. Or it's really like an even split this year of we're going for the 2 and 3 tier or we're going for the dessert table.
Nice.
So
It's a mixture.
it is.
And that's neat. I think it's really cool to see different varieties. I know
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple couples I work with recently, and they don't like attention, and they don't want anybody watching them cut their cake.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a small cake. They cut it privately so we can get
Yes.
these great pictures. And then everybody gets to enjoy all the
And
desserts.
even this year, I have had a handful of couples that do not even get a cutting cake. They're just doing cupcakes. They're like, we don't want to cut a cake. It's not something we want to do. And they're kind of like growing out of that tradition.
Yeah, and
So,
that's the great thing about doing your own thing. Like everybody has
right.
their own vision. You can do whatever you want. There's really no right or wrong
Exactly.
to what you like to set up. So in that, so let's say they do their tasting, they come and
Mm-hmm.
they commit. Tell us a little bit about, do you have a contract?
I do.
Does there
Yeah.
a percentage they have to put down, deposit, and how does that whole processing work, whether they book an event with you or they book the wedding with you?
Absolutely. So the tasting cost is due at the time of pickup. So we just get that taken care of then. If they decide that they want to move forward with their wedding order, we do offer a contract, and then that comes with a 25% deposit. And then the remainder is due 2 weeks before the wedding.
So if they have a deduction in guests, maybe they're having cookies or cupcakes, they
Exactly.
have a deduction in guests. then you can remove that and they're not paying for it and then with all this extra,
Exactly.
which is really key. I want to make a point to that. We talked about that kind of in the floral industry. This is another thing when you're working with vendors, your guest count, catering, we'll get into that. You want to really pay attention to that. You don't want to lose out on that and not follow up with your vendor for, like, instance, this example we just gave, because then you're going to end up spending more than you really want to, and it's not needed. It becomes a wasted thing.
Absolutely.
So with your events, let's say we're talking, because that's another piece. We have talked more about the cake part. With your events, do you do the same type of contract with your balloons or your setups or however you do? How does that process work? And what is the price range for that you're seeing?
Absolutely. So I do it a little bit differently for custom orders. So weddings have a 25% deposit just because that amount is so much greater than your typical birthday order, even balloon decor order. So those require a 50% deposit, and then the remainder is due at the time of delivery, setup, pickup. And then all of my orders are a little bit flexible. So the deposits are non-refundable, but they can be transferred to a future order. So if someone were need to cancel, if you're having a kid's birthday party and the kids get sick and they have the flu and you need to cancel the birthday party, as long as I have availability, we are able to transfer your deposit to a future order. So that offers a little bit of flexibility. But yeah, so my average, I would say for events specifically, balloon orders with a backdrop and a balloon setup, you're around 400 to 500.
Nice. Okay. Really nice that you offer that service of non-refundable, but it kind of like a rain check deal.
Right. Exactly.
I will say I've also had that same experience. Things happen that are out of our control. And so I've had events where people have booked them and something has happened similar to what you mentioned. And I'd say let's just move it forward for your deposit for something else you want to have.
Absolutely.
I've even had a wedding situation where I've been able to help the couple with that. So such a nice gesture and quality for your business. So kudos to you for even considering that and applying that to the clients that you work with. So tell us a little bit about, I know this can be a challenge, me being a venue owner, but tell us about any challenges when you do those deliveries, when you're doing the cookie delivery, the cupcake delivery, you're setting up the cake. I mean, this is the masterpiece that you've worked really hard on. There's different types of fillings that need to be refrigerated. There's different types of frostings. You know, that comes into a lot of play at different times of year. It could be cold, it could be hot. Explain to us like the challenges you face and what you kind of need to do your business.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge, it's obviously nice to work with vendors that and venues that I've gone out to and I am frequent, so I'm familiar with the space. I can go in, do what I need to do, and be in and out like no one ever saw me and the desserts just magically appeared.
Right.
So your guys' space is actually very nice because of your entire refrigerated room in the kitchen. But the biggest, I would say, hurdle that I find is summer months, having outdoor venues, and not having a refrigeration space for the cakes. So my buttercream is shelf stable, but the heat does not care about that.
No, it sure doesn't.
So, and especially when I have tiered cakes, a two-tier, I'm very comfortable having it assembled, driving it to the venue. But I am the type of person that I'd rather be safe than sorry. If I have more than a two-tier cake, I assemble the third, fourth, fifth tier on site, which requires refrigeration because as you're manipulating and handling those tiers, you cannot work with soft buttercream or you'll have my handprints in the side of your cake, which we don't want.
Yeah,
exactly. So a lot of times at venues, the caterers are in the kitchen. They have the refrigerators, the freezers full of things, and there's nowhere for me to put my cakes. And I do always call ahead of time to see if I'll have space because if I need to bring coolers, I've done that. But it's really nice when I can go put the tiers in the refrigerator. I can go start setting up the rest of the desserts, grab my tiers, set them on as needed. I would say refrigeration at venues and having the space for me is really the biggest challenge that I have.
Okay. And so when you go to some of these venues, you've probably never been there before. Do you have anybody that meets you, kind of shows you where this goes? Is it a coordinator? Is it a bridesmaid? Is it a mom? I mean, does that happen? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so when I'm going to a new venue, I typically will have already talked to, if they have a coordinator, the coordinator, or whoever is managing the venue. But I'm still going in blind. Like I'm getting there and I don't really know where I'm going. So I'll always get there a little bit early and then I will look for that point person. So I'll go in and I'll either catering's always there, they're everywhere.
Right.
So I'll go ask them like, who's the coordinator for today? Do you know where they're at? And they're always so helpful. So I'll find that point person. It's usually the coordinator. And then they show me exactly where the setup is going to be, where things need to go. And if it's a venue I haven't been to, it just takes a little bit longer, so I get there a little earlier.
And do you find that, have you ever had a situation where you go in and the cake cutting and all that's going to be a little bit later, and so you have to come at a later time
Yes.
just because of the setup?
Yes. So usually we will come in right before ceremony. It's if you have an indoor air conditioned, weather controlled ceremony, we can come in right before, no big deal. But when we get into those summer months and we have outdoor spaces or the type of barns that might not have air conditioning, we like to come in during cocktail hour or as close to even dinner as possible. That way everything stays fresh.
Nice. Well, something I want to touch base on what she has mentioned is that in preparing for this, you do need to have somebody meet your cake baker on site. They do need to have assistance. You don't want them to go in blinded, like she kind of said.
Right.
She is very organized and detailed, so she prepares herself, but you want to have somebody there to help. And you don't want it to be one of your bridesmaids. You don't want it to be your mom or somebody like that, but they do need to have a resource. And also, something you want to take in consideration and your setup is that they have enough space and it's also not so close to a guest. And when they slide their chair back to go get something, they bump the table, and then this masterpiece that someone has created has been disrupted. So just something also to take in consideration. She mentioned about her contracts for events and weddings, and I told you, informed everybody that when you start this process to have a notebook, that contract should go in that notebook. So when you report to your venue on that weekend or that special day, your coordinator can reference it just to make sure they can check those boxes that if she was making cookies, if she's delivering a cake, and she's setting up some photo op for your event, that everything's been taken care of. Just keep everything in one spot. Back to what I talked about being organized. So anything else that you want to share with us about your industry or anything like that that we haven't touched base on today?
Well, I will actually back to the setup when we're talking about venues you haven't gone to. You guys always have my dessert table ready for me. That's another thing. Going into venues that I haven't worked with before, sometimes that dessert table has not even been placed yet. Linens haven't been placed. So that's important to maybe mention to your coordinator to have that ready even before table setups because sometimes, I can deliver the cake a little bit earlier in the day
Certain time
and
of year or be out of the
absolutely,
way. Yeah.
exactly, and have
So
it ready. The other thing is as a micro bakery, I have had to turn couples away because as a one-woman show, I can only do so much. So
right.
when I'm booked, I'm booked. I can't clone myself, unfortunately. So it is never too early to book your wedding with a micro bakery because I am already booking into 2027 for weddings. September of 2027 is almost fully booked. So once it's full, it's full.
That's right.
So book
Well, again,
early.
kudos to you for your awesome work and
Thank you.
design. And if you have not had a chance yet to check Flourish Cakery and Events, visit her social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. Are you on
Yeah,
TikTok?
we are on TikTok
On
now.
TikTok
Yes.
now. So,
Yeah.
and visit her website. And I can assure you, you definitely won't be disappointed every time I've had experiences with her. It just is an awesome experience. It's beautiful design, beautiful work. I think she does a great job of bringing a client's inspiration to light. And again, check her out. Keep following us. Hopefully, this was informative today. And if you have any other questions for her, feel free to reach out to Christine Leatherman
Absolutely.
again at Flourish Cakery and Events. And again, thank you to River Spirit Media for having us here today and providing their services. Without Kevin and Jess, we wouldn't be able to do this. And tune in. So we've talked about florals, we've talked about cake baking and event displays.
Mhm.
I'll be back with some other vendors and have a great day.